Welcome to the Pedal Collaborative podcast. We're so glad you're here.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another week of the Pedal Collaborative podcast. I'm here. I'm Paul, and I'm here with Alan.
Hey.
And we're back for another week and the final week of February. It's crazy that spring is on the horizon. It doesn't quite feel like it yet because it feels like the weather's crazy here in Pennsylvania, going back and forth between super hot, super cold, super hot, super cold. 60 degrees in February and then 12 degrees. But I'm ready for springtime and what that means.
Yeah.
And we're first on the agenda this week. Alan was right. We got an Enzo X right after we finished recording our last episode. So
it actually dropped while we were recording.
Yeah, it was like the very tail end of it. And then you immediately after recording were like, oh my gosh, we were right. So we're starting off this episode by saying Alan was right. His theory, I think you even may have mentioned maybe way back when we interviewed Gina initially about wanting an Enzo X as the next thing.
Well,
so you've been manifesting this for quite some time.
I have been manifesting it, but I was not correct from that conversation with her, nor with everything else. Like I had asked for basically one more big box that had Enzo, Autobit, and Hydra all in it. And not
you did say that.
Yeah. Not just the part of it, because the LVX and Mercury X both have elements of Enzo, Autobit, and Hydra in them. I was wanting one with all three of those other ones kind of crammed into one. And I'm assuming that they threw some Autobit and Hydra into the modules that you can do for the Enzo X. But this really is an Enzo X.
It's really interesting. It's really interesting. The thing I think I'm most stoked on it actually is the fact that it seems to have its own synth engine that you can control with a MIDI controller.
Yes.
That to
MIDI
me,
controller or...
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say, or where is it? Hold on. Where is it? Dang it. Man, it's on their thing. It's... A synthesizer playable via instrument input or MIDI keyboard.
So that means the instrument input is like how the Enzo itself worked, where it's like your guitar becomes a synthesizer and responds to what you're doing. MIDI input leads me to believe that it has its own synth engine, and it does sound like, from looking at it, it's a 6-voice polysynth.
6-voice polysynth, yes.
So depending on how it sounds, which I'm assuming it'll sound good, at $599 list price, that actually might be one of the more affordable polysynths out there for that many voices.
True. Yeah.
Interesting to think about the fact that they just like entered a whole new game by doing that.
Well, yeah, because how many other polysynths give you you have the 3 foot switches to easily switch programs.
Yeah, no, I mean it's certainly an interesting way to do it. It's because it's like it's a pedal, but it's almost not a pedal. It's cool. I'm excited to mess with it and see what we can make it do.
I'm super excited. I just as we're talking here, like I guess if we're releasing this episode in sequential order of release, then this is episode 25. If I overpower you in the next, 12 hours and get this episode to actually be episode 24, and then the last episode, which we record as 24, to be episode 25, then the whole space-time continuum is disrupted, whatever the case is. All that to say is maybe by the time this episode drops, we might have some videos already queued up and released. Maybe not. I don't know yet because I can't see the future, but we're getting one. I've ordered one.
Yeah.
And there we go.
Yeah, we're not going to do it out of order, but it still might be true either way by the time this happens.
We might have a fight right now.
I will say it's definitely true by the time this episode drops. Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, I was happy to see you were correct. That was fun. And also I feel like there are things we couldn't have predicted that has like
Oh
being its
no,
own synth.
absolutely not.
And it looks like there's a little bit of Mercury X and then some
Mhm.
delay, which the original Enzo had delay on it as well. I don't believe it had reverb, which is cool to have the Mercury X Prism have a few algorithms on here too.
Yeah, because the Prism is one of the I want to see more unique algorithms on the Mercury X. It's definitely one of the ones, like the algorithms that are based off the CXM 1978, the room, the hall, and the no wait, which ones were they? Yeah, room, hall, and plate. Sorry, um, that's like the classic reverb, and it's pretty easy to get your head around. You start looking at the prism or the gravity, then it's like, wait, what is happening here? Um, Definitely a lot more expression involved in how those reverbs work, and then, um, yeah, just a lot more of experimenting in the parameters. So, which is super cool.
Yeah. So I feel like we mentioned on our last episode that we were going to have some new presets for whatever this is. I think we're definitely going to
Yeah,
now that we know what this is because it's pretty sweet. So I'm really looking forward to, I don't know, exploring. I feel like the fact that it also has a synth engine, like we could make synthy presets. This is gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to mess with. This is like a whole new avenue for
yeah.
us as well. So, yeah, I don't have too much else to say other than I'm hype. I did see a few. I was like just checking out like internet reactions so far.
Yeah,
And there was a few people who were kind of bummed it wasn't more like a direct correlation to like moving a
like the
Strive and
Mobius.
Mobius off your board.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah,
which I mean to a certain degree, like because they are new, like the Mercury X, the LVX, like they have both just time wise been like successors for some people to having a big sky and a timeline on
right.
their pedal board. So I think the fact that this is sort of like it does have some modulation stuff in it, but it's not quite a one to one with a Mobius. It's an interest. It's interesting because it holds like a totally new slot in your effects technically because there's not
Yeah.
really a big
So
box pedal like this on the market,
there's
to my
there's not
knowledge.
there's not. But can we pause for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Who who's still rocking a Mobius on their pedal board?
I have not seen one. I've never owned a Mobius just
Nope,
because.
never.
I mean, we talked about this a bit with our own journeys at the beginning of the whole podcast, but I just for me like having a one size fits all just mod pedal, um, never really was something I was like interested in just because like for me really chorus and phaser are the only two modulations I regularly use in writing music or playing music.
Mhm.
And even then, like, I'm trying to think. I don't even know if know like more than one or two people who own one at all. Like, have
Yeah.
ever owned one. I don't know. I don't know if it was ever as popular as the Timeline and
Is
the
it
Big Sky.
still is it still a thing?
It's definitely still in production.
Is it? Okay, I'm checking. I'm checking the interwebs.
Yeah, find out.
'Cause I'm gonna find out. Because yeah, I mean, oh yeah, it is still there.
Yeah, I didn't think they'd discontinue. It's just I don't know if it's as widespread as the other two
No,
of their big boxes.
yeah, and okay, and this is a general blanket statement, but I feel in some ways like what I end up seeing on the modulation side when on people's boards is again someone like you're really just into like phaser and chorus, so you're going to find the singular pedal or two pedals that are dedicated to those and what fits the best. You're not going to need like a Mobius, right?
Yeah,
Because like you just don't use that much modulation, whereas delay and reverb a little bit more of a catch-all, and especially in the house of worship side of things, more than, I mean, maybe you're in a cover band and you play a bunch of different kinds of stuff. You're in a house of worship, which is arguably a cover band, playing a bunch of different stuff. Like having a timeline, a big sky, an LVX, a Mercury X makes sense because of you get so much bang for your buck. You get so many fantastic delays and reverbs, But I really think like that's why the Mobius isn't really, you don't see it that much anymore. And speaking of the House of Worship side, people I'm usually seeing on boards, people are using the H90 for all of that.
Yeah, or even the stomp.
Or the stomp, yeah.
Because that's, I mean, for me, the stomp is more of like a fly rig amp sim thing. But I do know, I mean, we even just talked about this recently. I sold a few pedals that or modulation style pedals because I was like, I don't use this enough to have this pedal, but the stomp can do it well enough for when I do need this in a song or in a track. I'm like, oh, I have this, or even like the Chroma console has some of those things too.
Right.
But
so here's the question on the House of Worship world, right? I see the boards, and I know you've seen them too, where they've got a Mercury X or a Big Sky, an LVX or Timeline. They've got an H90 and they've got a stomp. So I call that the big four, right?
Yeah, or big six technically, but yes.
Well, no, I mean they don't have both a Timeline and
yeah. You got yes, okay,
got
yeah,
four,
or and
right?
then and for the other ones, yes.
Yeah. So there's an H90 plus there's an HX stomp plus there's a big box delay plus there's a big box reverb, the big four.
Yeah.
Are we? This is on the spot here, without thought. In House of Worship world, are we seeing the Enzo X jumping into that world too? Or will we see House of Worship boards with an Enzo X?
I don't know. I don't think so necessarily, because I also think of it like a lot of the sounds of House of Worship, and I think we actually maybe talked about this on an episode, or maybe one of our lost episodes, which we'll talk about another time. But like the idea that a lot of the sounds of House of Worship are sort of inspired still, like from the mid 2000s to now, by like U2 type guitar tones.
Yeah.
And unless you like don't have a synth or keys player, which I feel like most churches where people are playing with a board like a Space Station like that do have on their team, there's not really a place for like synth emulation on your guitar pedal board that like fits. Maybe if you had like a small worship team and you were trying to fill in and do that potentially. So I don't necessarily know, like in the same way the Mobius wasn't really one I saw in House of Worship. I don't know that modulation necessarily fits the style of music that is traditionally played in like most American churches, at least. Totally could see stuff like Ottawa, and I have also used things like Ottawa when playing with like gospel people, because that's fun. It's a totally different genre of music. But I don't necessarily know that the effects on this unit fit, or somewhat redundant. Some of the things you might use are like redundant if you already have a Mercury X.
Sure.
That's my take. What's your take? Do you think the same?
Well, yeah, I don't think we're going to see it a bunch on there. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I'm honestly the thing I'm most stoked on, because like I just had an Enzo, like the OG one, and
you did
traded it recently. Sort of knowing
well,
this might be
traded
coming.
it. We gambled on it. We thought the Enzo X was coming.
And we were right, so that worked out.
We were right. Yeah.
But it was one of those things where I think I said to you, and it's kind of funny of what is actually happening now with the Enzo X, is I was like, when I play this, I like, because I own synthesizers as well, I was like, I'd rather just play a synthesizer than like turn my guitar into a synthesizer. So the fact that this has that functionality is pretty cool. You can actually play it. So if you create a cool sound and your input is now that, so that's I don't know, that's pretty sweet.
I definitely need to get the Von Gun replay back from you, because I need to use that to control this.
Do you not have another MIDI controller? We'll talk about this offline. This is a whole nother thing. We actually talked about getting MIDI. We talked about us both getting new MIDI controllers in the near future. So we'll talk about that after this. But yeah, so I agree with you. I don't think it's going to find its way there. I am curious, like, to hear the synth engine. I think it's going to be a neat new thing. I also can't wait to hear it stacked with other pedals, because a synth pedal with a ton of high quality sounds in it stacked in with some of the other stuff, it'll be really fun. So
and it's a beautiful gold, so you gotta love that.
Yes, the gold finish. We didn't even mention the finish. The finish will look cool with if you have a white and a blue and a gold, it will look really cool.
Dang it, my Mercury X is black.
I've had this with my LVX being black, where I think it might
Okay, that's true.
color palette wise look better to have a white LVX on some of my pedal board setups, because tone is in the aesthetic, as we have discussed.
Tone is in the
I
aesthetic.
actually I saw, completely unrelated to pedals, someone the other day posting about how the artwork on an album changes how they listen to the music. And it was
Oh yeah.
like legitimately discussing the fact that if they had an alt cover of the same album, they might feel differently about the album than like the original cover. And I was like, I thought about it and I was like, I I kind of I don't think I necessarily have that experience with music. And also this is a weird thing, but about like 80% of the time now I've like listened to a single on Spotify before I ever had the vinyl record or a CD case with the album cover. So
Mm-hmm.
I sort of have an aesthetic feel for the music before it's actually I know what the album cover looks like, because that's kind of how music works nowadays. So I don't know if I don't know if I feel the same way about listening to music as pedals, but it was an interesting little tone. The album is in the aesthetic as well. So
I mean, I did see on Reddit this person posting they they had succumbed to the internet um, influence and picked up it was a black fade DRV, and they
this might have
weren't
been
sure
the
about
same in this might have been off of that thread, because I
it.
think
May have been
there was like two threads about this that started and like were
okay.
splintered. So
Yeah,
yes,
I mean, I told the person that, hey, tone is definitely in the aesthetic. So if you love the look and you like the sound, then that's all that matters, And if you
the
don't love
D
the sound, it's great to look at.
yeah, the DRV, as we talked about a couple episodes back with Mike, it does, in my opinion, the sound matches the aesthetic. Those are great pedals. I
Yeah.
was actually, because I am who I am, because I just sort of thought of that pedal for a long time as like the Instagram pedal, because I saw it
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
every I was like, not that I was like opposed to it. It's just one of those things where I was like, I don't know. Everybody's posting about it. Can it be that good? I don't know. It just might be the vibe. That pedal matches the aesthetic. It is great.
It does.
So
It does. And
we have a new one of those coming soon.
we do, and I was really stoked that you told me to buy one, but
Well, I also found you the end of January code that was like 6 people got one. So
tis true. We were able to do that, but yeah, grabbed one of the professional ones, the DeLoreans.
with the germanium. So
Yes, and y'all know I'm a sucker for germanium. Oh my goodness! Never mind, that's ridiculous. Let's.
I'm just gonna throw something up at germanium, totally off the cuff, and then we'll go into our other thing we were going to talk about quickly.
Yeah.
But so I had been borrowing your germanium blues disorder, the Keeley one,
I
and
felt
it sounds great.
guilty on the other episode where I said that you'll never get that when we were talking with Mike, and I was like, "You're never going to get that from me." I felt guilty. I
Oh
couldn't
well,
sleep
and
at
then I got
all.
to play it. I will say though, okay, this is, and I'm going to do an actual A/B of this to see. I don't know how much different it sounds as a blues breaker from the Morning Glory V4.
Oh, okay.
Because specifically because I've had a double barrel version 4 with the Morning Glory in it, and that was like a pedal I use pretty frequently for overdrive.
Yeah.
Um, I really like the Germanium Blues Disorder, but I I was playing it originally with my Jazz Master, which is one I don't necessarily have like the feel for with the double barrel, even just because it's like a newer guitar and I haven't had the double barrel on my board recently.
Mhm.
Uh, so I was playing my Telly the other day and I was like, oh, let me plug this into the Blues Disorder. And it was like instantly a tone that I'm like so familiar with of the Morning
Mm.
Glory.
Mm.
And so I actually then I like later in the day plugged in the Morning Glory and I was like, I feel like these are pretty similar, but I actually like want to A/B it to see if there's like little nuance to it.
Sure.
This actually segues into nuance of overdrives. I want to announce our March thing we're going to be doing on social media, because I feel like
Holy
it's
crap, that was
yeah,
a segue.
good segue though, right?
I
Comparing
thought you were going to
germanium.
segue into the JHS 3 series that just got released, but
Nope,
you did
nope.
not.
We'll talk about that. We'll wrap there. So we're doing a thing. So as guitar players and guitar pedal enthusiasts, we all love to ask questions of each other and compare things. And we've obviously done some videos of comparison. Like Alan did a recent one with like just ambient pedals of just doing the Chase Bliss Mood Mark II, the Microcosm, the Phantom Limb, a few other things. And so I had the idea, being that I am also a big sports enthusiast, that going into
Sports
March,
ball enthusiast.
yeah, sports ball enthusiast, being that March is typically for college basketball March Madness Final Four brackets. We were going to do a bracket in March, and what we're doing is Clone Wars, but with a K, because we're doing clone brackets. So between ones that we already owned, ones that friends of the show and friends in general let us borrow. We have 8. We're not starting with like 64 like the basketball. We're not doing that. Also, I don't want to do that. We have a controlled environment.
Clones?
Probably. Honestly, there probably are. I feel like the Klon is kind of like the New England IPA of guitar pedals. It's like everybody has one.
Yeah.
But the Klon. So I for many years had a Walrus Audio Voyager as my first clone that I like had in rotation. We have acquired the 8 we have. Let me make sure I get this right, because I have the picture of. I'm going to post this picture alongside this episode when we do this. Okay. I have the. Let's see. We have a JHS Nauticlon. We have a Voyager Mark 1. We have an Origin Effects Halcyon. We have a Voyager Mark 2. We're gonna actually. I think I'm gonna match those guys up against each other. We have the Warm Audio Centavo, the Wampler Tumnus, the Nordvang Sig 1, and then we do have a KTR actual Klon as well. Hey, so nice. the way we did this in its controlled environment lab is I created for round 1 on one of my loopers, I created a little loop. It just got some inverted power chords, a few little lead licks, and then some finger picking to kind of show the wide range of each pedal. And then I just swapped pedals in and out and recorded a video with that same loop playing. I started with the KTR since it is the OG, and I tried to match all of the other pedals to like the sound I was getting that I liked out of that for this particular little riff I wrote. And then we're going to have all of you wonderful people vote on each one and sort of evaluate, like, is the texture good? Does it sound different? Frankly, I listened to it too many times that my brain like was tricking me out on. I don't really know how different they all sound. I also
like every IPA, they all taste the same.
Well, and I remember texting you originally, and I do. There are distinct differences because I like gave myself a break and like listened back to them later, and I was like, okay, there are things that I can pick out here that are distinctly different. I was a little bit like. Because I'm always sort of a skeptic when it comes to like, do you need the most expensive thing? Is this like, is it just hype? Is it vibe? Is it actually as good as it is trending? But there are some things in here I'm excited. I'm not going to color anyone's opinion by talking about it before it's out here, but there are some things I definitely pulled out and I was surprised by in doing this little shootout. So that is our March Madness bracket of Clone Wars. Look forward to hearing all your votes and see who moves on to the next round, because we start with 8, then we'll go to 4, and then there'll be 2 for the final. So week 1 of March, we'll let the 8 guys run, get voted on. Week 2, it'll be the 4. Week 3, and then we'll announce the winner the final week of March. So,
I love it. And you've successfully combined 4 things that is going to reach everybody in the universe: guitar pedals,
yes,
Star Wars,
yep,
basketball, and beer. You've done that successfully just now. Like, that's marketing genius.
That's why in my day job I won an award. That's what it was. It's my marketing genius mind of making Star Wars. We still need to
post a picture of you with the award.
We'll do something else with it. We'll do something. So real quick, let's wrap on the other release of last week that we forgot to talk about because it actually happened before our recording, but we're talking about now, which was the JHS 3 series put out 3 new pedals. 2
which
of
we probably
which,
will see. We will see on House of Worship pedal boards.
Yes, I think so too. I have played with a couple of the 3 series pedals. We decided, and this is we're just telling people our content schedule basically. We're having a meeting right now, but okay. we're going to be doing some, I think we're going to do the JHS 3 series. We talked about the 3 series, potentially the Walrus Fundamentals, and I think the 1 series of all of the boss pedals, like the one that's like the basic one. So like the DS one, the CE one, like whichever one is like the first level, and just do some like shootouts and comparisons of like, hey, because I mean, what I like about the fundamentals in the JHS 3 series is no matter what pedal, they're 99.99, which is kind of nice. We're gonna be doing some little shootouts there too. So look for, you got Clone Wars coming up. You'll have some shootouts with some budget pedals. It's gonna be fun. We have some cool stuff heading into the spring here. But I am intrigued because the oil can delay is one I always like. And I do like that there's a 3 series oil can delay, so I'm intrigued to check that one out.
Well, they had actually released that a couple years ago when for Black Friday, I think it was 2023.
That I remember that existing at some point. Yeah.
It was all blacked out stuff. So that's when Walrus released the Marikai first as a blackout. The reverb, you could get the Line 6 DL4 Mark II as a blackout. You could get the JHS.
Was that 2022?
I don't know. The world did. I don't know. That was before yesterday.
Yeah,
but it was. That was before yesterday.
Yes,
we know it wasn't 2024's Black Friday. It was a previous Black Friday in the 2020s.
Yeah, it was some other time.
There's no way to actually tell. There's no way to know.
Well, also, every year since 2020 has been 2020. So someone the other day said that 2025 is 5 2020s in a trench coat, and I kind of agree. So it's how it all feels. But yeah, I do remember them having that. So I'm excited to have that. What was the other one? They put out a rotary chorus, and what's the third one? It's another delay. Tape delay.
Tape delay. Yeah.
So I find I find the uniformity of those 3 pedals, of the 3 series pedals, intriguing to me. They all look the same. It just something about it appeals to me. And I've only really messed with, I think, the fuzz. And what's the other? We had 2 of them at one point in time. We had the fuzz, which I actually kind of liked. It's like spitty and kind of gnarly. What's the other one we had of the 3 series? We had them at the same time.
That was before yesterday.
It was like last summer.
I don't remember that.
It might have been the reverb. I don't know. We'll do some shootouts. We'll have some stuff with that. I'm excited to try some new things that maybe we wouldn't try if we didn't want to do all sorts of comparison videos, which I like. So,
the world is our oyster here.
Yeah, we can make pedals. We can make pedal things. I do have a question of the week that I wanted to bring up as our last one here.
Let's do it.
It's one I came across in searching on Reddit, because it's where I feel like that's where most of my searching for stuff is. Let me grab it here. It was one I think appropriate to us that I saw like actually right before we started recording. Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. New to pedals, starting with reverb. Advice. Pedal noob here. I'm fairly new to guitar, playing just under a year. I was gifted a Crybaby Wah for Valentine's Day, and I'm immediately hooked. So now, of course, I'm curious to start exploring other effects as well. Oh no, this stuff feels like a rabbit hole I'm about to go down. I love to play around with tones on my amp, but I am feeling the want to have the pedals go back and forth between effects more easily. I've read a ton of threads, but felt it was worth asking a few specific questions to my situation. Love the specific question. That's actually important, because a lot of people on Reddit especially will be like, we don't understand what you're playing. We don't know. Read the manual, when people ask broad questions. So I like to your situation. I'm mostly playing at home, not trying to be a performing musician. Play a lot of different music from all genres as I'm learning, but I'd love to start with a dreamy, spacey reverb pedal. I'm drawn to that kind of effects across multiple genres. From there, I imagine getting 1 to 2 more starter set, ideally without getting carried away, a phaser, a delay, and then the sweating emoji, which I like that. Person really knows they're getting into it. Love to get into some pedals that have a few options and adjustments, but are more straightforward, sound good out of the box. So it sounds like someone that doesn't want to tweak. Been looking in the 200-ish range new/used, seeing some that are more expensive as well. I'm not opposed to that, but I don't want to overbuy something I won't be able to take full advantage of. So I'm seeing Walrus Audio, EHX, some up to meet my needs among a million others that get pricier like Strymon and Chase Bliss. Help me narrow it down. Excited to see what you all recommend. So we've done some of these beginner type questions, but knowing the specifics of this person, that their first pedal is a wah, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And then they know they want a reverb, a phaser, and a delay. They want to maybe stick in the 200s range, but they're okay with going up. So this is like really, really specific parameters for us to play in answering a question. So 200-ish range, I'm going to stick there because we obviously have our ones we'd recommend above that price range. New to guitar, they want something straightforward out of the box, but that gives them options. What are you giving them for a reverb, a phaser, and a delay?
Is everything total $200, or are you just $200?
Let me clarify this here.
Piece?
I think 200-ish a piece, it looks like.
Okay.
And starting with a reverb, that was the title.
Okay. So the one that comes to me to say this is what I would recommend is the Walrus Slow, either the Slotfa if you get it, or the Slower.
If you get a used one.
If you get it, you use Slotfa because they don't make them anymore, or the Slower. And because he wants that dreamy-ish sound, and there's so much dreaminess in the Slower, but it's easy to use, and you get the presets. So
true.
That's my vote on the reverb.
I feel like I would probably, since I've had it, of the two of us, I've had the Slower more recently. Same Slower, actually, we passed between us. I feel like I feel like the Slower has a bit of a it doesn't do basic sounds super well, in my opinion. It does dreamy only. So if you only had it as a reverb, because I always felt like I needed like my amp reverb or something else whenever I had the Slower, which is partially why I moved on from it, and also the Dark Star V3 just blew my mind.
Yeah.
I feel like I might recommend actually like the Hall of Fame, like the new one, the Hall of Fame 2, because it has some presets. It can definitely get a little spacey. There's some weird stuff. If being our last episode, we talked about like power supplies and stuff. I do feel like the TC Electronics pedals do some weird noise that I've never been able to dial in. Like, it's almost like there's a weird noise floor built into the pedal. But if you're just starting out and you want to have something that gives you a lot of dreamy flexibility, there's like the presets built into it. And they also have the weird thing where you can beam them from your phone with the tone print. I don't know if you've ever messed with these. Do you know about this?
I do. That's
you like attach it to your pickup and beam it to your thing. It was like the whole premise of the mini Hall of Fame was like, you don't have a lot of settings, you just do it from your phone, which is like kind of weird.
But yeah, it was before like Bluetooth was a thing.
But I just feel like for that, for bang for your buck and getting a lot, that's maybe where I would go to get started. I will also honorable mention, and I don't actually even know what it costs because we traded into this recently. What is the Keeley not Hydra? Is the Hydra the one I have? The one that's the trem reverb?
Well, right now you've got both the Hydra and the Zoma. Can
you get the Hydra for less than 200 used? Because I might actually recommend that.
Yeah, you can.
Because that one, what's cool about that one is the reverb, like to answer this exact thing out of the box, it's really like, okay, this sounds good. The different 3 algorithms sound good. But then when I was showing you, because you had one and passed it quickly and like didn't really dig too much on the Hydra originally, you said that like there's a lot of things when you dig into that thing where you can get some crazy secondary sounds out of it. And then also just as a bonus, you get like a pretty cool trem with 3 different modes too. So like if you wanted a dreamy reverb, I think there's enough dreaminess in that pedal that's obviously a higher price point. I think probably even used in the Hall of Fame. But
it is.
I feel like if I was in that 200 range, that might be one that I would consider down there too.
Yeah.
Not that I wouldn't consider the Slower. It's just I feel like if I was starting out, the Slower might be almost overwhelming because it's like it's just creating these crazy pads and these octaves and these delay trails and stuff. Where you're like, I don't know what's happening because I don't even understand the effect because I'm new to it.
Yeah, I want it.
So phaser and delay. Right? Phaser and delay were the other two.
All right, so phaser. You know what? It's not my most favorite of them in terms of effects, but I'm digging the Carolina Arigato.
That is a pretty good one, and you can get them for that price point as well.
Yep.
We actually could still answer this thread, by the way, because it's like an active one. So we should probably, one of us should go on the TPC account and answer this person with our answers.
We can just tell them they need to come onto just listen to the podcast. Just like listen to the podcast.
We could tell them we answered their question. Anyhow,
that's true. We could.
That might be fun. Yeah, I feel like the Arigato is a pretty good answer because there's a lot of flexibility, and that Havoc switch does such cool stuff.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's cool. I feel like Caroline has become like pervasive in my mind for like that. Basically, the answer to this type of question is like their pedals are not crazy expensive, but they're incredibly well built, and they can do a bunch of different stuff with only like 5 or 6 knobs.
Right.
So you're like going to get good sounds out of the box. For me, I don't think they mentioned you don't get presets, which is a little bit of a bummer. If you find a cool noise, you can't like necessarily pull it back
Right.
right away.
Right.
I actually was gonna also say the Arigato, so we can just move to delay.
Okay.
We both just played with that one, so it's fresh in our
Yeah.
minds.
So for me, delay it's a little bit different because it is there's so many delay options and there's so many really good ones. But if you're kind of just starting, but you want options and you want ease, JHS Flight Delay is a killer delay.
Yeah, that is a really, really good one. Because it gives you a little bit of analog, a little bit of delay, digital, and then you get that reverse, which you don't always get on every pedal of this price delay wise, or even like the reverse is kind of hit or miss on delay. That's a really good answer. I had 2 I thought of, one, but I'm gonna do the one that I actually own and still like and play with. Used, you can get a Boss DD200 for 180.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I feel like with that you get 5 presets. It's a Boss pedal, so like anybody can figure it out. You get a little looper in there as well. And you have like basically every delay algorithm you could think of. Is it an end all be all? No. Would you be able to play with it? And I think it also goes a little beyond like that beginner tier because it's something I've like you could play live with if you needed to. So
Great answer.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that's the question of the week. Keep an eye out as we hit next week for the beginning of Clone Wars. Your input is what's going to move things on to the next round. So vote for your favorites. And I do ask to consider, this is one of our friends of the show, Scott, who also does all of our graphic design. Shout out, Scott. He was like, I feel like you should give people some like parameters to like, don't just vote based on the art you like or the one you liked coming in. Like consider it like, you know, hey, which one sounds like it would fit into a mix best? Which one fits this? Like consider sort of a holistic view of the pedal. I debated blind testing this and not having the graphic up of the pedal to try to do that. But I feel like that would, I don't know, that I feel like it's more fun to look at the artwork when you're listening to each one. Yeah. But consider holistically. Don't come in because I will say some of my preconceived notions were actually what's the word I'm looking for? They were blown apart by this because I didn't think they were going to be what I thought they would be.
They were wrong. Wrong.
Yeah, just they were incorrect. I wanted to say like they zagged away from zigging, but I was like, that doesn't even. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just saying words that don't make sense. So, but yes, Clone Wars. Keep an eye out, and also you'll some Enzo X stuff coming soon. So
that's right.
We officially can say Enzo X because it's a real thing now, not just. Alan and I have been calling the mystery Maris pedal that since before they even announced it. It's like their next pedal, the Enzo X. So it almost feels like funny to me because like I had the thought of like if they call it anything else, we have to like we've had the nomenclature for so long now that we've been calling it that.
We should have trademarked the name.
Well, I'm sure they already had that by the time they made it.
Let's go get the other ones.
The Hedra X, the Auto X.
Don't say it out loud.
Yes, there you go. But all right. Well, have a great week, everyone. We'll see you soon and keep collaborating.
See y'all in March.
Bye.
Bye.